Good morning, Mr. King. Thank you for being here and for your willingness to share with us today. Our first question is, when did you realize that you wanted to serve our country in the military?
It's a great question. and First off, I just want to really thank everybody for being here today. Uh, that was an outstanding service of what you did in the quad out there. That was just really amazing. Uh, Very humbling, but also very nice to see all the 260 prep brothers who have served their country. Just want to give a thank you to all of you who put that together. Just very humbling. Back to your question. I think for me, when I knew I wanted to serve was, God puts people in front of you during your life, and they influence you. Some good, some bad. And for me, my father went to Norwich University, and he had got stationed in Korea as a armor platoon leader, so a tank commander. And when I was a little kid, I would see these pictures, and I just thought tanks were pretty cool. So as a kid, I saw that, and then as my life went on, I would meet veterans, either some of my prep friends and brothers, their parents were veterans, whether it was a Vietnam pilot or they served in the Navy. And they really had interesting stories. And for me, I knew then that was a seed where I go, maybe that's something I wanted to do in my life and have those stories. So yeah, that was when I knew I wanted to serve. What was the rest of your question?
What was your journey like once you made the decision to join?
When I made the decision to join, I really I was anxious. I was worried. Am I good enough? I doubted myself. And I found that with the people I was with in my cadet class, they had those same feelings and emotions too. And you had people say to you, well, if you can do it, I'll do it. And then that kind of goes around. So that kind of calmed me down a bit. And then my sophomore year in college, I still hadn't signed the contract yet. And they said, hey, Cadet King, they have this thing called an order merit list. And you have to be good in physical fitness, you have to have good grades, and you have to get a good evaluation from your cadet commander. And so I was high on it. And they said, do you want to go jump out of airplanes with the U.S. Army? And wow, that sounds cool. So that was my first taste of the Army. And when you go to this training and you meet people from all over the country, all walks of life, you meet West Point cadets, you meet Navy cadets, Marine cadets, enlisted personnel, other officers. I was in a class with a guy who graduated Providence College and was on his way to Ranger School, and so he kind of took me in. But then jumping out of planes, having that camaraderie, that was a hell yes moment for me. And so that's when I said, hey, I'm going to do it.
Thank you, Mr. King. Here's Quinn Lombardo.
All right, Mr. King. So for our second question, we asked, what was the transition like from being a student to serving in the Army?
So being a student and serving in the Army. Well, when you do ROTC, my experience, I was at Providence College, so they kind of gracefully walk you into it. It's sort of like a crawl, walk, run. So your freshman year, you show up, you go to physical training in a gym like this, you do push-ups, sit-ups, you learn how to march, you learn the basics of like an operations order. Are they hard on you? Not so much. But you learn the basics. You go to class once a week, and you show up for PT, physical training, 2 to 3 times a week. And you get kind of used to it. And that's usually the same for your sophomore year. And you wear the uniform usually once a week. So then you're walking around campus in your uniform, and oh wow, you're in the Army. And at the time, it was pre-September 11th, so not many people were serving, but it was kind of like, oh, interesting. But I found that it was very challenging, but what I liked about it was in your life, when you face challenges, that's where the growth happens. And for me, some of my friends would be off doing college things on college weekends, and I would have to plan out a section of an operations order for coordinating with another unit for a helicopter and when we would line up and confirm and all that stuff. And then you'd go out and you actually do it. And that was all while you're a student. So that was an interesting part for me. And then as you progress, your junior year, you're really getting evaluated on how you do as a cadet, your physical fitness, your ability to lead other cadets, and also follow. And for me, learning that leadership skill was really great. And a lot of what being a leader is helping other people grow. So if you think about prep here, you're surrounded by people that are going to help you grow. You're surrounded by leaders. And each and every one of you here is a leader, and your faculty and staff are here to help you grow. So take advantage of that. And for me, I felt that with my cadre, the officers that were in our ROTC unit. They really helped us grow as a student and as a future Army officer.
All right, and then for the second part of that question, is there anything you would have done differently during your time at prep or in college to better prepare for the challenges of the military?
Good question. I took some time, wrote some things down. What I would have done differently is take the time to self-reflect. Put your phones down. Put your iPad away. Take the time to be with yourself and your mind. You have one life, and the sooner you take time to have that inner deep reflection of what you want to do, you're going to be ahead of your peers. And for me, I didn't learn that till later on in life. And when you go deep within yourself, you learn a lot. And it's something that's a very good thing to do. The tallest trees have the deepest roots. The tallest trees get the most sunshine. The tallest trees do get exposed to storms. They do get knocked down, but in God's great wisdom, they do come back. So take that time to really self-reflect on not what you want to do, but who you want to be, the type of person you want to be. And for me, that was one of the things that if I could go back in time and do it earlier, I would take a lot more time to do that. And another thing, too, is what you learn in your life, you'll find out that within yourself, you have two people. You have what you can call your stick man, which I guess is your hopes, your fears, your emotions, your thoughts, your actions. And they're scared. It's your ego. It's there to protect you. But it's you at your worst. So that's one side that you have. And then you have another side of who are you at your best? Who's your best self? What are your thoughts? What are your emotions? What are your actions? And you have to think sometimes, how how do you keep yourself in your best self? It's that inner self-reflection, because at the end of the day, who do you think makes better decisions for yourself in your life? Is it your best self or is it your stick man? So keep aware of that. Think about it. But having that awareness really helped me down the road.
Thank you, and here is Rudy Swaggerty for the next question.
Thank you, Mr. King. So this next question revolves around how your Jesuit education has helped you beyond your 4 years at Prep. How has what you learned at Prep influenced your time in the Army, your career, and your family life?
Yeah, I'd say it's the values that you learn here at Prep. That really is your foundation. And I find that when I would be out on mission in Fallujah, when it was not a nice place to be, I found that having that foundation of faith actually served as a strength for me. I remember specifically getting ready to go out on a mission, and when it really hits you when you're getting ready for a mission, you're prepping it, you're rehearsing it, and for me, it usually hit me when you're putting a magazine in your weapon, and you're going, okay, I got all my ammunition. Does everybody else have their ammunition? And then you're doing all this stuff, and then in your mind you're going, huh, whoa, this is a little bit nuts. I'm going outside the wire. I'm going into an area where people want to shoot at me, people want to blow me and my team up. I had to separate myself, and I'd go take a knee somewhere quiet, and I'd say a prayer. And when I was doing it, I would say a Hail Mary, but then you would get flashbacks and go, this feels really weird. I feel like I'm on a football team at Prep. I feel like I'm on a rugby team at Prep. I feel like I'm all that. So having that inclination in my mind to go, where are my values? Where's my source of strength? It was in my faith. And so that really helped me in my career.
Thank you so much, Mr. King. I'm going to pass it back to Ethan.
Thank you. In what ways is Prep's brotherhood like the brotherhood you experienced in the military?
In what ways is the Prep brotherhood the same as in the military? Similar in a way where wherever you're going to go in the world, whatever you do, you're going to cross paths with somebody from Prep. And you're going to share stories of what teachers you had, who was the tough ones, what happened that was funny that year, what championship you won, all that sort of stuff. What experiences you had at Prep. Those shared experiences, thousands of men that have graduated from Prep, you're going to meet within the world. And that's part where that's very valuable when you go to look for a job or seek out an advice or a career. For me, going into the Army, you do form a brotherhood and a bond with the soldiers that you serve with, the men and women. You have a shared experience similar to Prep. You have a shared experience that's hard. Prep is not an easy school academically. You challenge yourself, you grow through it. Serving in the armed services is hard. It's a sacrifice. But while you have that shared experience, you do form a deep bond. And I could tell you right now, I could call the soldiers that I served with. I have their numbers in my phone. We drop everything to do something for them. And similar to that, you grow so close to each other, you're almost obligated to, similar to Prep. When you notice somebody being down on themselves, or notice they're not getting to their full potential, you have to love them enough to call them forward or call them out. But I like to call it forward, challenge them. For me, it's being there for them. How can you be helpful to your brothers, to your sisters? It's very similar. The one thing that I will say is going into the Army and seeing that bond, it's the total melting pot of America. You have people from all over the country. And I remember people that loved being in the Army because they got fed 3 meals a day. And that was a huge win for them. And for me, growing up in Norwalk, going to Fairfield Prep, went to Providence College, and you meet this guy who's going to be your gunner going into Iraq, and he's like, dude, we get 3 meals a day. And you're like, wow. So it's humbling, but at the same time, it really makes you aware of the broad spectrum of people in America, the broad spectrum of people that really want to show up and serve their country. So it was just quite the experience to see that. And for me, the Prep Brotherhood really served as a foundation for success, I felt, for serving my country. And it's very similar to the Brotherhood here at Prep.
Thank you. Here's Rudy.
Thank you, Mr. King. So you talked about the similarities between the brotherhoods, but are there any differences between the brotherhoods here at Prep and in the Army?
Yeah, thanks for following up on that. Yeah, there's a lot more guns and weapons in the Army. You have that. And also, for me, it was my first job. I barely, you're scraping by in college. You get, as a cadet, I would get paid. It would be probably about, back then it was like $400 a month, but that was good for being a college life. And then, when you start to serve, you go to your schools, you're getting paid. You got your meals paid for. You got uniforms paid for. You had a lot more freedom. However, you had a lot of your own responsibility. And that's where, leadership really starts, I think, starts from yourself. If you're not going to lead yourself, who is? And that was, for me, when it hit me, that having that freedom, you really had to, you learned at an early age, you got to make a plan for yourself, otherwise someone's going to make a plan for you. And you also learned just the level of responsibility that you had I was like 23. I had 30 soldiers, 10 gun trucks, and I was responsible for planning the missions out for the men and women that I served with, and that was just a big responsibility, and it was me. Whether I made mistakes or whether I did well, that was on me. So it's really something that you have to take your own initiative to do. I probably rambled on that question.
That was a great answer. So now I know we have some people in the crowd who are truly considering going into the Army. So my question to you is, what advice would you give to a current prep student considering a career in the military?
Yeah, I would, again, go back to that self-reflection part of it. Think. It's a major commitment. Also, if you're choosing to serve in the armed services, look for one that you most identify with. Research their values. Research the different units. Research the type of organization you want to be a part of. Think about that. know that when you sign a contract, you really are, after that, you're literally U.S. government property. There's no, hey, I don't want to do this. It's, you're getting the training, you're going to show up, you're going to do this. So you really got to be all in. All in. That's the level of commitment you got to have. And for me, it's tough to learn that when you don't have that. For me, I really didn't have that confidence going into it. And what I found is that to get that confidence, it's about keeping promises to yourself. Learn how to do that. No matter how big, no matter how small. Learn how to keep promises to yourself. Those small actions compounded over time will lead to your confidence. I didn't learn that till, seeing that happen in my life. But when you don't keep promises to yourself, it erodes that foundation. So always keep track of that in your mind. Only you can answer that question. Are you keeping promises to yourself? Are you showing up for yourself? So think about that if you are considering to serve. It is a challenge, but like everything, any challenge you have in your life, don't think of it as a bad thing. Think of it as an opportunity to grow. So that would be my advice. Really think about it. And it's okay if people don't serve. You can serve in other ways. It's not for everybody. But for those that do, it's a very big commitment, and it's something I'll always cherish. And for me, it's a major part of my life. And really think about, when you reflect, is this something I want to have a memory of? You may debate about it, you may do it later in your life. Totally good, but make sure you take the time to self-reflect on it.
Thank you, Mr. King. That was a great answer.
Thanks.
It's clear that you're a very inspirational and wise guy. So my question to you is that what piece of advice have you received from someone in your life, whether it's at prep or in the Army, that still sticks with you today?
Lots of stuff. But what I really learned is, early on I was told, if you take care of your soldiers, they'll take care of you. And for me, showing up to my platoon, here I was, this 22-year-old kid. And as an officer, you go in and you're in charge of 30 soldiers, just about, and 3 squad leaders who have probably been in 10 to 15 years each. And then you have a platoon sergeant who you're directly in charge of, who's served probably 20 years. So me coming in as this young kid, who do you think's really in charge? So the one thing that I learned was really be humble, because it can go one of two ways. You could either walk into your newly appointed platoon and puff your chest up and say, hey, I'm in charge now. Not going to go well. Or you could go in and say, nice to meet you. I really want to learn more about you. I want to learn specifically about each and every one of your jobs. Over the course of the next days, weeks, and months, I'm going to be out in the field with you. I'm going to be learning what you do. I'm going to ask a ton of questions. That path goes a lot better. And then when you actually follow up and do it, your soldiers go, wow, this guy's for real. And the miles of respect that you earn, they'll follow you to hell and back. So a big lesson I learned is just really be humble. If you let your ego get in the way of things, it will not go well. Try not to be in the mode of defending, excusing yourself, explaining yourself, and reacting. I think you guys all know here at Prep, they really want you to be wise, open, loving, and fierce in your values. And that's, for me, that was a lot of the best advice that I got being in the Army and learning that over time.
Thank you, Mr. King. I'm going to pass it over to Quinn.
All right, so another question I have for you is, what is your favorite memory from the military?
My favorite memory. It probably would be when I got promoted to first lieutenant. So second lieutenant, they call you a butter bar, right? You have this bar on your helmet, and it's gold, and people can see it everywhere. But what it really means is like you're the first rank of an officer. And sometimes, butter bars, quote unquote, can have a bad rap, thinking they know everything and all that stuff. So I always tried not to have that. And I was probably about 3 months into my time in Fallujah, and it was just, a challenging time for everybody. And one day we get back from mission, and we're cleaning weapons, and I'm getting the next briefing for the next mission we got to do the next day. And I hear a call over the radio. There's a formation at, 14:30 or 2:30 p.m. I'm like, you never have a formation in a FOB or forward operating base. And I'm like, I'm complaining, what the hell is this? Why are we doing it? So I get up there, and you get in front of your platoon, and our company commander comes down, our battalion commander comes down, first sergeant's out there, the sergeant major of our battalion. And I'm like, what's going on? And I'm like, must be something important. And they gave out a few awards, and then they called me up, and they promoted me to first lieutenant. And at that time, because you didn't have a seamstress or anything like that, you had to just color in your butter bar with a Sharpie. So for me, it was nice because my commander, who I really respected, came in and colored in my bar. But then my favorite memory was afterwards. We're back at my platoon area, and I had a lakeside villa in a place called Dreamland in Fallujah. It was really odd. But I'm there, and it's boarded up. We got sandbags there and everything to protect us from mortars and stuff. And so my platoon sergeant says, hey, Lieutenant King, let's take a picture of you in front of our platoon sign. And I guess that'd be great. Awesome. And I thought this guy was totally earnest and honest. And it's about 105 degrees out. It's hot. And so I'm taking a picture in front of the platoon sign. I'm smiling. And a bunch of my guys went up on the roof of my platoon hooch, and they poured a bucket of five gallons of water right on me. And I have the picture to this day. And it's just the joy you could see in my face. I didn't care they threw water on me. But I knew that they respected me and loved me. But they all came over, gave me hugs. And it was just a really nice moment for me. And it was funny because after that, we had a tradition. If you got promoted in the unit, you got a bucket of water poured on you as a surprise. No one ever knew about it. And in my unit, they still do it to this day. So that was my best memory.
Thank you so much, Mr. King. I'm going to pass it on to Joey DeJoya.
Thank you, Mr. King. We are honored to have you here today and appreciate your honesty and thoughtful words. Thank you for your service and for speaking with our community today. Yeah, let's get a round of applause for Mr. King. Awesome guy. All right, now we would like to invite President Cashman up to offer a few final reflections. Mr. Cashman.
Well, greetings, Prep. On this Veterans Day 2024, I am so profoundly grateful for this experience here today to honor all who have served our nation, especially our Prep brothers. Special thanks to Mrs. Moritz, Mr. McKenzie, Mr. Houghton, Mr. R.A. and Pulsifer on our ASC, members of student government, our student moderators, to Mason, and all who made this day possible, but especially to our guest, Mr. Bob King of the class of 97. Let's show him our Prep thank you and gratitude. Let's go, boys. Thanks, gentlemen. You can take a seat. As all of us know, at Prep, our call to Christian service is something we talk about every day. Being men and women for others, it's imprinted on our Ignatian DNA from the earliest days of freshman year. The first thing you learn is our Jesuit motto, AMDG, Ad Maiorem Dei Gloriam, for the greater glory of God. And there is perhaps no greater example of that service than service to our nation in uniform. It's a tradition that reaches back to the founding of Jesuit education. As you know, St. Ignatius himself was a soldier for Spain and became a warrior for Christ. I think especially of the generations of Prep men who have made the great sacrifice to defend our liberty all the way back to 1943, as Mason so eloquently noted this morning. All the way to some of the incredible young men I and other of my colleagues had the chance to teach right here at Prep in recent memory. And looking at that amazing litany of pictures that adorn Arupe Hall this morning, our brothers. It should give us pause and humble us to consider our Prep brothers, formed in the Jesuit Ignatian tradition, who have come so far and given so much. Before they became soldiers and officers, they were formed as men of Prep. And I'm profoundly grateful that we've gathered here today in prayer, in reflection, and action to do our level best to honor our beloved Prep veterans. May the spirit of Ignatius and his Savior Christ the King inspire us daily. And may we never forget our Prep brothers and all men and women who have served the cause of freedom and liberty, never for themselves, but for the greater glory of God in this nation. Thank you, and hail veterans of Fairfield Prep. God bless.